Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Here we are gonna analyze one of my over-the-board games that I played. That was like a couple of weeks ago, and it's gonna be like a very interesting rook endgame. So let's jump to it. Alright guys, so we do have this position. Let's see what's going on. First of all, we have the black pieces here, and it's black to move. It was my turn, and here I captured this knight. To be honest, that's not the only thing to do in the position, but this was move 39 or something, 39, 38. So I just captured the knight really fast because I had no time to calculate the computer lines that you're gonna see here. For example, bishop c7, rook c5 I would not play, and bishop b8, I mean this line doesn't make too much sense. The idea is that you're attacking both of these pawns, so he's gonna give up one of them, but this is not a human thing to do when you have no time. So I take, he takes, and this is an unpleasant endgame. As you can see, the engine evaluates this as better position for white, and yeah, we're gonna see what are the problems here. Okay, so first of all, the material is equal, but the problem is that my king is less active than his king. His king is a really active piece, and that means, for example, okay, it cannot go to d6 anyway. Let's say king d5, king c5 could happen in the future. Maybe some h5 could also be a possibility for him. And then if I take, he can take this one. So he has a few plans. Also, one very annoying plan is that maybe he can do something like this: rook c5 and rook c7, with the idea of capturing this pawn. And of course, sometimes if I'm not careful, he can probably try to get to b7, which is something that I can't really avoid if I move my rook from the b file, because the b7 is defended. So I need to be really careful. I can't really do something like this because I'm gonna lose the game. So here I made a move which was a mistake. I think this was move 40, and I played pawn to c4. So after this move I got 15 minutes, not too much time to play the whole endgame still, but it's better than the few seconds that I had. Anyway, so c4 unfortunately is a mistake. I needed to capture the pawn, which is of course the first move that I calculated, but then I saw that he can take on c5, and this is the idea we were talking about. However, there's rook e2 check, king d5. Okay, on king d4 you just give a check, and he's gonna go king d5 anyway. So king d5, rook e3 is the move, rook c7, king f6. You need to be really active in these type of positions with your king. Activity is the key to the endgames. And now he has a few options. So he can push the pawn, but let's see what happens if he captures. If he captures, I just capture on c3 as well, and rook a8, rook a3. At the moment he's gonna push the pawn, I'm gonna go king g7. So for example, let's say king c4, g5, a7, king g7. And now this is a well-known position. Okay, now we have more pawns here, but you need to have king g7 or king h7. Otherwise, for example, if black plays something else, I'm gonna make a stupid move. There is rook f8, and then white could promote, or maybe it's even more precise. I don't know if capture is possible, but yeah, you get the idea. Check, promotion, and this is winning for white. Yeah, as you can see, engine also gives this move maybe, or even this one. But the idea is simple. Rook f8 promotion and white wins. So you need the king to g7. Also king f7 is not working because there's rook h8, very well known idea, and if takes rook h7 and white is winning the game. So on rook a7, yeah, we said rook takes c3, g5, king g7, yeah, takes, king c5, f4, takes, and now after king b6 you just play rook b3 and it's an easy draw. You just give checks and then you go back to a3 when the king approaches your rook. So this is what's happening after a7. Of course, after rook takes a7, excuse me. Of course, white can also play c4. White can also play this move. And the idea is that after rook takes g3, you don't lose your pawn. You just play c5 with the white pieces, or even rook takes a7. The thing is that after rook takes a7, white is wasting a little bit of time. So this gives me the possibility to play rook d3, and now he can't get to the e5, so he needs to put the king in front of his pawn. And that gives me enough time to just push my own pawn. With f4, rook d7, rook a3, you have no time to take the rook because takes f3, this, and now there is queen f8 and black's queen is lost. So black needs to play rook a3, king b7, rook b3 check, king c7, rook c3, a7, takes, king b8, rook b4, rook b7, rook a4, a8, check, takes, g5, and now this endgame, if white takes, he needs to be really careful not to lose the game even, but he can give the check, king e5, takes, and now after takes, this is an easy draw. You just push the pawn and white's king is far away from the pawn, so we get to queen and we draw the game. That's what's happening if he plays rook takes a7. If he goes c5, just pushing the pawn even further, then we still have the check, king c4, and now the only move that's drawing the game is rook d8. And the idea of this move is that you want to defend against white's c6, c7. For example, takes, f4, rook b7, g5, c6, f3, c7, and now we need to play rook e8, so that f2, f1 will follow, and here white has a choice. White could try a couple of moves. White could try either rook b8, let's say, but then after f2 captures, checks, check, excuse me, king c5, queen c1, king b6, queen b2. This is gonna be perpetual. This is gonna be a draw. Black can't win this because white's pawns are too far advanced. So I need to keep giving checks here. So it's either rook b8 or rook b6, which is probably more interesting choice. King f5, king c5, f2, and rook b1, g4, a7, g3. And now there's a really interesting idea for white. So white can try to play a8, sacrifice the pawn so that he can play rook b8, and the idea is that now that the rook is not here and it's on a8, now white is threatening to promote with check. So you can't really promote because white is promoting with check, and that's not good. So something very important in this type of endgames, something that you should always take into account, is the position of your king, because it really matters that your king is not preventing your pawn from promoting. For example, this king here is not preventing my pawn, but it's actually helping the opponent's pawn, because c8 is coming with check. However, there's still a defense here with rook a5 check, and after king b6, there's f1 queen. So now white can promote with check still, but there is a hidden idea. First of all, let's see what's happening on rook f8. This is a line that I actually did not analyze, but I just saw that, you know what, white can still play this. I think we just need to get out of the way of this check, so we shouldn't go here or on e6. I suppose we could just go king e4 maybe. And then after takes, rook a8, I think that's it. Let me actually check with engine as well, but I think, oh no, king g4 is the move. Right, now this is getting strange. It says that after check there is this rook f5 move, right? I guess you live, you learn. That's a line that I didn't take into account. Anyway, so after king g4, which is the only move, now takes, there's rook a8. So this is the draw. Wow. I have analyzed this game and there are still lines that I've missed. Anyway, so king g4 is the correct move. A little bit unorthodox, I could say. Running into the check willingly. But there's this rook f5 move, which is even winning, by the way, according to the engine. That's insane, because now black is the one who has the passed pawn, and maybe the king can hide on h3 in case of checks, or even take on h4 according to the engine. Alright, so that's what's happening on rook f8. On c8 queen though, which looks also dangerous, there's king f4, queen c7. Alright, if he just takes the rook, this is gonna be perpetual. Now the problem for white is that white's pieces are a little bit passive on this 8th rank. They're on the edge of the board, so black can just give checks like this, and white does not have the chance to block the checks. So since white's queen is on the light squares, we need to give checks on the dark squares. That's a rule. Kinda okay, not just the dark squares, because he's gonna escape, but you need to check him mostly on the dark squares. Queen c3, and here you can even take, and king g4, king h4, g2, king h3, king h2, and just promote, and this is gonna be a draw. So yeah, in general, try to prevent him from blocking your checks in situations like this. On queen c7, king g4, rook g8. Now black has a very nice move, rook g5, and the idea is that if he takes, you can start giving checks once again. And okay, if he goes king on the a file, maybe there's queen a2, I think, and that should be a draw. So he goes king c6, queen c2, and now you can still take. And okay, ace takes g5 is a draw, but you can also try this move if you want to, I don't know, maybe try to play on victory, because this looks scary for white, but white can just play rook a8. For example, g6 is lost, g2, and you win the game. But there's just rook a8, and now you need to capture, otherwise g2, you can try to play rook g1 or something, and then g6. So you need to capture, and that's gonna be a draw. So that's pretty much everything about this rook takes b2 line, which is a draw, but you have to give up this pawn, which is something that I did not have in mind at this moment. So I played c4 on move 40, and he tried to think a little bit. He invested some time here. He played rook a2. When I saw this move, I didn't know if I should be happy or sad, because they say, as a general rule, they say that the rooks are better attackers than defenders. So here I was happy at first place, but then I was sad because he could like play this. So yeah, I was really worried. And the biggest problem for me is that I don't have any useful move. So yeah, what am I going to play in this position? Tenzin suggests king f5, king f7, king d5, king e7, king takes, and now Tenzin says that I must give a check, or maybe rook d6, and I have to try this king f7, this king f7 move in order to survive, but I don't really understand that. Actually, I didn't understand that during the game, and I played h5. So h5 looks like an innocent move. Okay, you might say, what is this? He can try to, he can try to go like this maybe, and you're finished or something, but it's not that simple. I want to go king h6, and maybe at the right moment, if he moves the king like this, maybe I can try to go g5 and create a passed pawn on this side. This was my idea. The problem with this move is that on the previous lines, I don't know if you remember, but we were able to play some g5 and maybe even f4. Now, when you play h5, the main problem is not that you're weakening this square. He can never go there. The main problem is that you cannot play g5 that easily anymore. So this is a real problem. Now g5 is gonna require a lot more moves, because king h6 has to be played, and then after g5 you always need to be careful of, you know, some checks maybe on the 6th rank. You'll see what I'm talking about. So I'm playing h5. He goes rook a4. So now here I was happy. I'm like, okay, he played rook a2, now he plays rook a4, so he's not sure how to win the game, which was true. It was true. He didn't really know how to win. I mean, that's a tough endgame. And now after rook a4, I should have played once again rook takes b2. The problem with this line is that it's still losing. I think it's tougher for white to win this, but it should be a win after rook takes c4, king d4, check, rook e3, rook c7, c4, and now I can't push these pawns that fast, so I need to take. I'm wasting one move here, rook a3, and now f4 is f4, f3, f2 is gonna push the pass pawn, but I don't have enough time. For example, king b5, f4, rook d7, g5, c5, f3, c6, f2, rook d1, check, king c5, check, king b6, check, king c7, g4, a7, rook a3, king b7, g3, c7, g2, and here we are losing the game like this. Once again, position of the king played a role here, and also it took me some time to push the pawns, because I had to take this one first and then play f4, g5. I couldn't do it in one go. So rook takes b2 still losing. I decided to play king h6. The truth is that when you don't play a move like this in the first place, you're not gonna play it afterwards either. it's very hard to realize that you were wrong in these type of situations. So rook takes c4, rook takes a6. Once again, I was scared that after this there's rook c7, and I think that now it's pretty obvious that he's winning after this. So I just captured this one, rook c7, and I gave a check, which was wrong. Now there's a really strong move, rook b6, which I saw, but I missed that. First of all, okay, after rook takes a7, rook takes b2, this is an endgame that we need to evaluate. So if you know that this endgame is drawn, you can play this. But I was not sure about that. I thought that this one was probably lost. So let's see. After c4, check, king f6, rook c2. He needs to defend the pawn. Rook g2, king f7, king h7. Okay, I mean, this one is threatening king g8 and rook h7. So that's why you go king h7. c5, rook takes g3, check, rook c8, threatening mate, king h7, c6, rook c3, king f7, f4, rook c7, f3, check, king h6 is also fine. I decided to add this move so that you can see that even after king takes, king f8, check, king g8, this is a draw. Because f2 takes, that's an easy draw. He just takes, you play defense on the last rank, and this is an easy draw for black. So that's what's happening on rook b6 if he takes the pawn. If he plays b4, you have a really easy move. I think I would spot this. It's a5, and the idea is really simple. If he takes, you just play rook b5, king f4, rook takes. But once again, you need to know that this endgame is a draw, which I was not sure about that. So endgame knowledge is really important. Mainly the simple endgame knowledge. This is like, it's not that complicated. So it's very important to know simple endgames, because you can try to transform from more complicated endgames to simpler ones like this. I did not know that, so I just gave a check. I thought that an endgame like this would be losing, so I gave a check. And here he went king f4. King d4 would be better, because it's helping, it's closer to the pawns. So after b4, he can try to advance the pawns easier. But he played king f4. And now there's also rook a4, which I missed. And the idea is simple. On c4, you just go rook b4. And he can't defend. So this is the same thing. This endgame, we know that it's a draw. I have analyzed the line here. We're not gonna check it. I don't want to waste time on the same endgame. On king e5 instead of c4, let's say king e5. Check, king d5, rook e3. Now c4 takes, b4, check, king c5, g5. You need to be fast. Takes on a7, f4. And now this should be a draw. We're both pushing our pawns here, also trying to defend. White is defending on the first rank, we're defending behind the pawn. And we're pushing everything, and we just queen at the same time. Okay, this is a tough line to see from the beginning, but at this point you just have to like know what's going on. It's a pawn race, so you need to push your pawns, your passed pawns, as fast as possible. That's what you need to do in this type of rook endgames, when you can't really defend. For example, if my king was on d8, maybe I could also try to defend, but my king is here, so there's no chance for me to defend, just keep attacking. Yeah, and if he plays something like king f3, this is not a real problem. I can simply play a move like a5 and try to keep pressuring his pawns. This is annoying for him. And yeah, even a3, and this is the same endgame as we said, as we saw earlier. This is what's happening on rook a4, which is a great move. But of course I did not see that. I played rook a1. It's also a fine move, but I played it with the wrong plan. So he plays c4, and now there's no rook b4. Now rook b1 has the same idea as rook b4. He can defend, but there's rook c1, and now on b3 a5. On rook a7 you just play rook c3, and this is a draw. We said that. So rook b1 was the draw. Once again, I did not see that. As I said, if you don't see it the first time, it's very likely that you will not see it the second time either. So I played a5. And now he's winning with c5, which he did not play. So let's say that you are on white's spot, on white's shoes, excuse me. Let's say that you're on white's shoes. So what you need to do is push your passed pawn, or pawns. In this case, it's just one. So do not waste time. He played king e5, which is also following a rule, centralizing your king. But no, when you do have a pawn race, I mean, this doesn't look like it, but it's a pawn race. So when you do have a pawn race, just push your pawns as fast as possible. So with c5, rook b1, rook b7, rook c1, rook b5, rook c2, king e5. So now the difference is that he doesn't get into this endgame, and now he's winning. He's gonna play king d6, c6, you know, c7, and rook c5, and he's gonna win the game. And I have no time to push, because he's already faster. He has pushed the pawn on c5, and he's gonna play c6, c7, rook c5, and he's gonna, with the king on d6, he's gonna win the game. So I was wasting time here. This is a move that's wasting time. You should avoid these moves in this type of endgames where time is the key, you know. So I played a5 anyway and made a mistake. He also makes a mistake. He plays king e5. I give a check. Okay, usually the checks are not too good in the endgame. But here I don't have much of a choice, so I give a check. King d4. Okay, now he played king d4. We repeated once or twice. I don't really remember, but instead of rook d1 check, I should have played g5 or f4 even. And the idea of these moves is that, let's say on g5, okay, if he takes, that's easy. I just take, and I play rook e2, and that shouldn't be really hard to defend, because I can even bring my king back. But if he plays rook c6, which might be more annoying, there's king g7, h takes g5, and rook e4, rook g4 is a great motive. Rook f6, takes on g5, now the rook is under attack, king e6, takes on g3, takes, check, check, and h4, that should be a draw, h3, rook b3, and on c5 just do not take. This is gonna be a loss because the king is too far away, so you need to defend your pawn with your king, and now you can take. And this is an easy draw. Alright, so that's g5. There's also f4 instead of g5. This might be simpler, because if he takes, you just take on h4, and okay, of course he can't prevent, you know, he can't prevent takes. And after king e5, let's say he's preventing this, you still go rook h2, going after the pawn, rook c2, and just h4. Check, rook c2. Let's say that we're going for a win, he can just queen, and yeah, this is not possible, so I have just added a sample line here, and this should be a draw as well. So as you can see, the reason why most of this position is a draw, actually there are a few reasons. First of all, this corner pawn is kind of hard for the rook to defend. I mean, white can make a draw, but he can't really win because his king can't really, you know, do the outflanking that he would like to do. The king cannot go, you know, on the left side of the pawn, so that's one reason why he can't win. The other reason is that his king is simply too far, because he needs to defend the pawn with the king. So when he queens, the king is also too far. For example, the king is not like, if the king was closer, maybe he could try to win the game, but when the king is on c8, he simply can't. Alright, so this is f4, but I played rook d1, king e5, rook e1, he repeated, and now he played king d6, rook e1 check, king e7, and after that, okay, I wanted to drive his king out of these central squares, but now I played the wrong move. Once again, you need to play rook d2, take this pawn, and this is a draw. We've said that so many times. I'm sick and tired of it. Okay, now I know that this is a draw. During the game, I had no idea. So I played rook d4. He goes c5. And here I went f4, that was my idea. The idea was to capture on f4 and then capture on h4. And we said, as a rule, you need to push your passed pawns as fast as possible. He did not do that. He played rook a7. It's also winning, but the most precise thing is to follow the rules, and of course this makes a lot of sense, because when you advance your pawn, it's closer to getting a queen, so this is worth 1 point, but when you do this, it's closer to 9 points, you know, so it makes a lot of sense to push the pawn in this situation where I can't stop it. So he goes rook a7, I take, and now still c6 is winning, but he takes the pawn, he's going for the materialistic way, which doesn't make any sense, because this pawn is worth 1 point, and as I said, this is getting close to 9 points, so he shouldn't bother with this. This is not a threat, because this is defending against, you know, the advance of my pawn. Anyway, he takes. This is still winning, but it's making things more difficult. Okay, so now I've added a line which doesn't really help black, but I just want to show you that after g5, c6, rook c4, king d6, g4, he has rook a3, super important move. This is one of the reasons why this pawn is really annoying, because he doesn't want to prevent my pawn. I mean, he wants to prevent my pawn from advancing, but he mainly wants to play rook c3. And then after a couple of checks, he goes king d5, rook e8, c7, rook c8, b4, h4, b5, h3, b6, h2, rook c1, g3, b7, takes. He can't take because there's h1 queen with check, so he needs to promote, takes, check, and now he doesn't go for this, because even though this is winning for white, it's much harder, so he can just go queen f3, king g6, and he can try to take my rook like this, and now I'm simply lost. I cannot avoid the loss of the rook. If I go to the f file, there's queen f4. So this is a sample line, and that shows you why this pawn has to be captured because it's super annoying due to this idea, and then it just advances. And I did that very late in the game, which is not good. Now, I don't know why, but once again he did not push the pawn. He didn't play c6. Takes c7, rook c2, king d6. Takes. H4, king d6, g5, king e5. He's too fast. I have no chance to push my pawn, my pawns, because he's just gonna do this, and rook g8 is gonna take the pawn, rook h4, and I'm losing. He did not do that. He played rook a2, and after that I made a mistake. I played rook c4. So once again, you should not defend in the rook endgames. You should try to attack as much as possible, and when there's no chance to attack, then you defend. That's what you're doing. So push the passed pawns. I did not do that. I should have done that, and after g4, c7, rook c4. Now when's your last chance to defend? When you can't attack anymore, then you defend. Rook a6, king g5, king d7, and now since he's threatening this, now you take g3, h4, g2, h3, h2, g1, and this is a draw. I played rook c4, and the problem is that after king d6, h4, c6, g5, c7, h3, so now he can play this. Now that's the problem. He can just play this, and this is gonna fall. So in the previous line I had pushed my pawns a little bit differently, and this allowed me to play moves like g3 instead of, you know, h3. So now I have to play h3, unfortunately. I mean, I can also play g4, but it's not helping me in any way. I think there might be even some rook a6 there. Maybe. Yeah, rook a6 is winning there. Also rook a4, okay, the engine is giving a lot of moves. Yeah, g4 is not good. h3, I mean, h3 is not great either, because he has rook a8, which he missed. And after g4, check, king g5, b4, king f4, b5, king g3, I'm just too slow. I'm just too slow. He can even promote again, and after g3, queen h3 is winning for white. So after h3, rook a8 is winning. He played b4. He was too eager to push this pawn, but after g4, now my pawns are getting dangerous. Rook h2, king g5, b5, king h4, b6, g3, and now he sees that he can do this, which, yeah, he can do it, that's true, but after b7, g2 I'm lost, that's what he probably saw, and after this he's promoting with check, that's why I'm lost. And that's a well-known endgame, when the pawn is on the G, E, D and B file, one of these files, then the player with the queen is winning. So white is winning because the pawn is here. I'm not gonna show you how it's winning, you can see it in somebody else's video probably, but this is winning for white. So I have to take here, and he played king takes c7, I played g2, b8, and we agreed to a draw. If he doesn't take my rook and he promotes, I mean, obviously he saw that. He told me he was afraid of this rook c4 and maybe some rook z4 idea. And he was scared that I might even win this. I mean, I don't really judge him for that. After this crazy endgame, I would also be afraid that I could even lose. Yeah, this is a draw, okay, of course, black can't win. I would probably play here rook c2 to be honest, and rook f2 and just try to hold on this type of fortress. And maybe advance if I have the chance, but yeah, I would probably not play this. I had rook c2 in mind. Anyway, so that was the endgame. That was it. We have a few things to say after this. When you have passed pawn, just push your passed pawn. This is something very important. You should not forget about that. This is... I don't know if this is working in most endgames, but here I saw that you need to defend in the last second possible. I mean, maybe you can tell me in the comments if that's true. I just saw that here it's working. Just attack as much as you can and then defend last second possible. You need to attack a lot. Rooks are designed for attack, not for defense. Rooks are for offense, that's what they say. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Okay, and something else. Material is not everything in rook endgames, because at some point he decided to take my pawn on a5. He's still winning, but he's doing it. He's making it more difficult for himself after this move. And just so you know, this guy was not a bad player. I don't want to give his rating, but trust me, this guy was a good player. I just say that before you judge him too quick. This guy was a good player, but in these rook endgames, if you don't know what you're doing, it feels like you're playing like 1500. If you don't understand what you're doing, you're making a lot of mistakes, as we both did. So yeah, that's the game. That's the end game. Please tell me more if you like this type of end games. If you do, you can leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Bye bye. See you guys.